Hey everybody, welcome back to GRE Bytes. My name is Davis, an educator with over 10 years of experience.
And I'm Orion, the founder of Stellar GRE.
We're here to bring you another weekly bite-sized episode on GRE prep and grad school admissions. Check out our top-rated GRE self-study program at stellargre.com and use the code BYTES for 10% off all memberships. All right, let's get to it. So we've mentioned this word cheat sheet before in previous episodes, and we have another listener question who heard that and just couldn't resist asking us a question. She's actually asked us a previous question also. So thank you again, Syra, for your communication and collaboration with us on these episodes. So the question is very simply, what in the world is the cheat sheet? Well, Orion, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, the cheat sheet is something that is very important. Basically, everything that you need to get a perfect score on the quantitative section of the GRE can be written on the front and back of a regular size sheet of paper. You have to write a little small, but you don't have to write like tiny. This is in dramatic contrast to some of my competitors who have encyclopedic books that run into thousands of pages on all of the essential material and information that students need to know for the quantitative section. Everything that you need can be written on one sheet of paper, and I call that a student's cheat sheet.
So when you say everything that you need can be written, you're talking about, are you talking about formulas? Are you talking like it's just mathematical concepts? Is this just strings of mathematical representation, or is it actual words?
No, it's mostly the mathematical representation. So this is a quantitative exam. You need to know some things about math, but knowing math is necessary but insufficient in getting the questions right. If you don't know, say, the area of a trapezoid, it will be very hard to get a question about the area of a trapezoid correct, but that's probably not enough to get a GRE problem right. That's why you have to understand that the GRE it looks like a math test, but it's actually not a math test. It's just using quantitative concepts to test something way more abstract, which is, let's say, potential. Because again, the GRE is an aptitude test. It's not actually evaluating your knowledge base of math, which kind of makes sense because the math involved is middle school level at most. It's basic algebra and geometry. It's not about your achievement in the quantitative domain. It's about assessing as best as it's possible your potential to achieve in a future context that may involve quantitative ability, among other things. It has to use something to test potential. And so in one section, it uses kind of quantitative concepts, and in another section, it uses, let's say, semantic concepts. But neither one is really about words or numbers. Both of them are trying to assess potential in a future achievement context.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting because there's definitely, as a student and as a teacher, there's sometimes that feeling of like, you encounter a problem and you're like, oh, I can figure this out. And ideally, the cheat sheet is something that's well prepared enough and studied enough on beforehand that there's never a thought when encountering a GRE question using our system where a person says, oh, I think I can figure this out. It's immediately, no, I know the exact formula. I know exactly how to apply it. And that's something that is developed through the program and then consolidated on the cheat sheet. So how does the cheat sheet get formed through your program, and how should a person use it towards approaching their GRE test date?
Yeah, great question. And you use the magic word consolidation, which is what this is really about. Consolidation is kind of a fancy word for memorization. There's more to it, but that's the core concept here. And because of that, I think it's really important for each student to make his or her own cheat sheet. This is something that I could easily provide, but it's something that I don't, because the act of creating it will do the lion's share of consolidation for you. And it doesn't take all that long if it's only a one-page document. A lot of consolidation also is, it has visual analogs. So if you, a specific individual, are creating that cheat sheet, you'll remember that you put the probability rules in the upper right-hand corner, and not only do you have the semantic information consolidated, but you have a visual analog that you can use to recall that information as necessary. The act of you organizing and creating the sheet will help you to memorize it, which is why I don't do it for you.
And also then, is it beneficial to, I mean, that's a great strategy, and I definitely appreciate the act of creating it being the lion's share of the act of the consolidation and memorization. Should students use that while doing practice tests?
That's a good question. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with doing the practice problems with the cheat sheet directly in front of you, because on some level, you can cheat off of yourself on the actual exam as well. This is a bit of a gray zone, so take this sort of with a grain of salt, but you can sort of use your scratch paper on test day as a kind of cheat sheet. Anything that you're having trouble keeping straight in your mind, you can copy down on your scratch paper when you sit down in front of your computer terminal, and then you cheat off yourself. I think that that's totally fair game. So I don't necessarily have a problem, because, again, knowing those formulas are necessary, but they're insufficient in the question right. If you could ace the quantitative section of the GRE just by memorizing that page of formulas, you could prepare for this test in a weekend, but that's generally not what we see. And that's because success on the GRE is not about knowing. It's not a what. It's a how. And a how is something that you have to kind of get in your bones. It's procedural knowledge as opposed to, let's say, crystallized or factual knowledge. You need some of that or else you can't succeed, but the vast majority of success is procedural. It's a how. It's a way of doing things, and that requires rehearsal. And to answer your question, which was a good one, yes, you know that you have succeeded in consolidating the information when you have instantaneous recall of the relevant material. That is the standard. Basically, I should be able to wake you up from a deep sleep and tell you and ask you, what are the three sides of a 30, 60, 90 special right triangle? And you should just be able to tell me x, 2x, x root 3, Orion. It should just like come out of you, in the moments of half consciousness. That's how deeply ingrained that factual knowledge should be, because the test is hard enough as it is. If you're spending time and mental resources struggling to remember or understand this crystallized knowledge, you're creating unnecessary friction for yourself.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and that speaks to the necessity of rather than cramming over a weekend and trying to develop that kind of recall, which is just improbable in that method, but doing it over a series of weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever a person needs, slowly building up that recall and knowledge base, because it is procedural, because it is something that's rehearsed over time. Thank you, Orion, and thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week for another bite-sized episode of GRE Bites. Again, if you have a topic you'd like to discuss on a future episode like this one, let us know at stellargre@gmail.com. We're friendly, and Orion's very prompt at returning emails. And if you're ready to take your prep to the next level, check out our top-rated GRE self-study program at stellargre.com. You can use the code BITES for 10% off all memberships. Talk to you again soon.